You have probably seen those videos on social media saying these two games are 10 years apart. Technology keeps advancing. RTX 5090s, ray tracing, AI, next-gen consoles, and yet this is where we are. Graphics technology is progressing exponentially, but why do so many new games still not look better than the games from a decade ago? I mean, don't you think modern games look bad? At least a lot of them. So, what's the deal? There used to be a huge difference in visuals between games from the 2000s and those from the 2010s. I say this as someone who experienced that era firsthand. There was a noticeable generational gap between games released 10 years apart. But as we moved from the 2010s to the 2020s, this difference started to fade. For example, there isn't a big visual difference between Battlefield 1, released in 2016, and Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which came out just a few months ago. In fact, Battlefield 1 looks even better. Or take Red Dead Redemption 2 from 2018, which still visually outshines nearly all open-world games today. But how? Some people argue that games are being rushed out unfinished because of shareholder pressure. Others blame engines like Unreal Engine for killing creativity. But I think the real issue is that games just don't have soul anymore. All this tech, ray tracing, AI, you name it, is just a tool. What matters is how you use it. You could make something stunning or something that looks awful all with the same engine. Then there's the argument that ray tracing is making developers lazy. They say if a GPU can automatically handle better lighting and shadows, developers aren't going to spend time perfecting those things themselves. In fact, in games like Black Myth Wukong or Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, you can't even turn off ray tracing. You are forced to play with it on, which obviously causes performance issues. But here's my take. I believe that if hardware can solve a problem in game development, then let the GPU handle it. This way, instead of worrying about making a game look better, developers can focus on making it more enjoyable to play. After all, if a game isn't fun to play, who cares how good it looks? Think about it. If the GPU takes care of some of the workload, developers have much more freedom and time to experiment. That should lead to more games with great gameplay, right? I guess even I struggle to believe what I'm saying, because like every other industry, the gaming industry is controlled by capitalist companies. Cutting the workload in half doesn't mean developers get more time, it often means half of them get laid off. So, while I used to think ray tracing would benefit gaming, now I'm not sure what to think. One thing I do believe though is that this tech is a game changer for small studios and indie devs. It helps them create games that are both visually appealing and creatively fun. By the way, you have probably noticed I care more about gameplay than graphics. Visuals come second or even third for me. But since we're talking visuals, let's stay on topic. So, let's talk about the newest game in this video, Assassin's Creed Shadows. This one's tricky. Yeah, the game does look beautiful actually. It's not the best looking game in terms of graphics or fidelity, but it does feel like a next-gen game. But not always. You see, sometimes it looks incredible and sometimes not so much. I'm not sure why, but there seems to be no consistent visual cohesion. To me, Ghost of Tsushima, which came out 5 years ago, feels way more satisfying in terms of visual cohesion and art design. Sure, Ghost of Tsushima might not be graphically superior, but just because a game uses the latest tech, like ray tracing or high-quality textures, doesn't automatically make it look better. I'm not saying Assassin's Creed Shadows is visually unsatisfying, but Ghost of Tsushima definitely feels more fulfilling to me. And that's not because Ghost of Tsushima had better graphics, but because of its incredible art design. It's not even about graphics. Assassin's Creed Shadows might have more realistic graphics, but Ghost of Tsushima simply looks better thanks to its cohesive art direction. Let me give you another example, GTA Vice City from 2002. Vice City's visual cohesion is so solid that even though the graphics are outdated, it still feels satisfying to look at. The atmosphere, the vibe, the overall design, it all just works. But I can't say the same for GTA Vice City Remastered. Sure, the remaster has way better graphics than the original, but it doesn't hit the same way. Something feels off. Like the visuals don't quite fit together. And instead of making the game look better, those advanced graphics make it feel weird. I think that's the issue with a lot of these new games that use the latest tech. They lack visual cohesion, they lack soul. They are not designed as worlds you'd actually want to immerse yourself in. When I replay games from the 2000s, yeah, sure the graphics look outdated, but because many of them have visual cohesion, I quickly get used to them and they start to feel natural. I think that's what's important. Every game is going to look dated someday, but the ones that really nail their art direction will still be visually satisfying 20 years later. By the way, there still isn't a game that looks better than The Last of Us Part 2.